From Andy Darden being the very first character to have met an untimely death, to Shay's death tugging violently at our heartstrings, here are the Chicago Fire characters who have died over the years. Oh boy, let me tell you about the roller coaster ride that is Chicago Fire. This show has been burning up our screens for over 11 seasons, and it's had its fair share of exits, to say the least. Those brave firefighters from Firehouse 51 have faced some seriously emotional deaths. It's like a real-life drama unfolding right before our eyes. You'd think it's amazing that the show is still going strong after all this time, but it hasn't come without a price. Some characters have come and gone, but there are those unfortunate souls who won't ever have a chance to make a comeback. Yep, they got permanently written off the show. Talk about a bummer, right? Even some of the most popular characters have met their untimely demise, proving that no one is safe in this universe. It's like you never know when a fan favorite might drop like a hot potato. And as if that wasn't enough, the recent season 11 finale really upped the ante. The death toll keeps rising, and the emotional weight just keeps getting heavier. It's like they're not satisfied until we're all literally drowning in tears. Remember Andy Darden? He was the very first character to meet a fiery end in the series. That too in the premiere episode. Talk about making an entrance. Right from the get-go, this show wanted to make it crystal clear that nobody was safe. Andy, a firefighter from Truck 81, made a daring move against Matt Casey's orders and ended up in the attic of a burning house. But guess what? The fire hadn't been ventilated properly and bam! Backdraft happened, and poor Andy didn't make it out alive. Now, he may not have had a lot of lines, but his impact on the show was huge. Even in his short time on screen, his death sent shockwaves through the other characters. Casey and Kelly Severide had close ties with him. They were buddies from way back. Casey and Andy even went to Fire Academy together, while Severide and Andy had been best friends since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. These three were always hanging out, but when he died, things took a dark turn for Casey and Severide. They started blaming each other for their friend's untimely demise, and the tension between them was off the charts. It became one of the major storylines of the first season. Can you imagine how that must have messed with their heads? But here's the crazy part. His influence didn't even end with his death. Years later, it was revealed that he had named Casey as the guardian of his two sons, in case anything happened to him or his wife, Heather. And guess what? When Heather went to prison, Casey stepped up and took custody of the kids. He packed his bag and moved all the way to Oregon to give them a good home. Talk about a big responsibility. His passing created this whole push and pull dynamic between Casey and Severide. They had to deal with their grief and find a way to support each other like true brothers. But then Casey faced even more challenges when he had to choose between helping Darden's sons or sticking around in Chicago. Life sure knows how to throw curveballs, doesn't it? Then there's the story of Hallie. Brace yourself for the heartbreak, my friend. So, remember Hallie Thomas and Matt Casey? They were engaged, but they broke up right in the very first episode, but they eventually got back together, only to have their happiness crushed once again. Poor Hallie was murdered after discovering some serious corruption at the clinic she worked at. Casey just can't catch a break in the love department, can he? As tragic as it all was, Hallie's death did serve as a turning point for the show. It allowed the writers to dig deeper into Casey's emotional side, giving us some intense storylines. Plus, her murder sparked an investigation that introduced the intelligence unit to the series, setting up the whole Chicago PD world. So, in a twisted way, Hallie's demise had a significant impact on the show's future. Now, let's switch gears and talk about our charming playboy, Kelly Severide. Oh boy, that guy sure had quite the dating history. Flings and girlfriends came and went like a revolving door. But then, he met Anna Turner, and everything changed. Finally, Severide was ready for a serious relationship. Cue the tragic music. Anna was battling leukemia and needed a bone marrow transplant. Guess who was a match? Yep, our man stepped up and decided to donate. After the procedure, their bond grew stronger and they started dating. It seemed like they had a real shot at happiness, but life had other plans. Anna's cancer got worse, and she signed a DNR order. Things took a devastating turn when she became septic in the hospital. The doctors couldn't do anything because of the DNR, and Severide was by her side pleading for her life. It was one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the entire show, believe me. Anna had such a likable personality, and everyone warmed up to her funny and kind attitude. Unlike Severide's past love interests, she didn't come with any baggage or drama, which was a change that was refreshing as hell. But alas, her time on the show was short-lived. The chemistry between Anna and Severide was undeniable, and it was tough to say goodbye to such a great couple. And as it turns out, the dude just can't seem to catch a break. His never-ending string of losses in his life is a real bummer, if you ask me. Season 7 hits him hard when his dad, Benny, kicks the bucket. Yep, old Benny Severide suffers a stroke and dies, right before Severide could even make it to the hospital. Ouch. This leaves Severide with a whole bunch of unresolved feelings toward his pops. He had been shutting down those emotions for a while, but soon they all bubbled up to the surface. And it isn't until Season 9 that Severide really starts dealing with the impact of his father's death. That's a long road to travel, my friend. It really put a strain on his relationships with everyone around him. On the bright side, though, this shared loss brings Severide and the Chief closer. It's one of those silver linings in the midst of all the heartache. Also, if you think about it, Benny was a bit of a stuck character, you know? Most of the time, the show portrayed him as a ladies' man who loved his drinks and himself, probably in that order. Whenever he showed up, you could bet he'd cause some trouble or get into a heated argument with his son. The show didn't give him much room to grow, so there was only so much they could do with his character. Maybe the writers felt they had run out of ideas for him, and this was their way of giving him a heroic exit. But man, it was heartbreaking to watch, especially considering we've already had Pat Halstead killed and Bob Ruzek getting shot. And now this episode took away one of the most recognizable recurring characters in the production. Writers totally know how to tug at our heartstrings, that's for sure. We also have Evan Hawkins, the paramedic field chief. Out of nowhere, a building decides to crush him in Season 11. Talk about a shocking twist. Hawkins made his debut in Season 10, working closely with Sylvie Brett on her paramedicine program. Things heated up when he started dating Brett's partner, Violet Mikami. Their relationship caused quite a stir among the Chicago Fire Department professionals. But love knows no boundaries, right? Just when they seemed to be on the right track, tragedy struck its ugly sword. Pieces of a building came crashing down on Hawkins while he was helping a victim at a fire. Violet witnessed the entire devastating scene, and our hearts broke as she desperately tried to save him. Sadly, he died on impact, putting a terrible end to their relationship. Watching Leslie Shae's death was no walk in the park either. During the Season 2 finale, Firehouse 51 responded to a fire. Things took a disastrous turn when an explosion caused the roof to collapse. Shae was struck in the head by a falling pipe and she didn't make it. The worst part? Viewers were left hanging on a cliffhanger, only finding out about Shae's death in the Season 3 premiere. It was a gut-wrenching moment for everyone at the firehouse, but it hit Severide and Gabriella Dawson especially hard. Shae was Severide's best friend, and Dawson was her partner. They even switched places inside the building, so it could have easily been Dawson who didn't make it. That couldn't have been easy to bear. So, there you have it. From Shae's death tugging violently at our heartstrings, to the very first character to have met his untimely death. These were Chicago Firecast members who have died over the years.